right, in the passage immediately preceding this one, you might remember that Caesar informed us that the Belgae, the Belgians, were the strongest of the Gauls, and one of the reasons which he gave for that was the fact that they always fought with the Germans. Almost every single day they had battles with the Germans. So note here that Caesar is going to now tell us about the Helvetii. These people were inhabitants of the southern part of Gaul in modern-day Switzerland. You see that it's quade causa here, literally about which cause. If this is at the beginning of a question, it means why. But at the beginning of a declarative statement, it's simply going to be for which reason. Okay, so for which reason, the Helvetii quoque, the quoque is here inserted also in order to add this to the fact that the Belgians were also really strong. Okay, so they praecedunt relicos Gallos in virtute. Okay, this is an ablative in the respect in which they praecedunt relicos Gallos. And then he explains the reason for this is quod, because they contendunt cum Germanis, right? In fere quotidianis proeliis. So note that quotidianis is an adjective describing proeliis here in the ablative, right? And then you get this cum clause when, and to break this out for you, cum, and then you need to remember that the Helvetii are still your subject. When the Helvetii aut suis finibus eos, and that is the Germanos prohibent, right? So either they prohibent eos, suis finibus, you might want to supply in the sense or in your translation a or ab suis finibus, or when ipsi, and that is the Helvetii, bellum gerunt in eorum finibus, and the eorum right here, that is referring to the Germans, right? In eorum, in within their borders. Okay. If you go back here, you'll see you then get eorum una pars. To make this next rather long little section more intelligible, I broke it out for you. So eorum, and the eorum here is, you should construe this with a supplied finium, right? So of those borders, or of those limits, una pars, right? So one part, quam, and then note that the quam here is going to be the accusative direct object in your relative clause. So it begins a relative clause, but it is the direct object of this construction, which is going to have an accusative infinitive. Because note that dictum est, it has been said, right? That Gallos obtinere. So dictum est is going to take an accusative infinitive construction, which is Gallos obtinere, and then Gallos obtinere governs quam, all right? So quam Gallos obtinere dictum est, right? So una pars, and then this quam here just gives you this quam clause gives you information about the pars, right? But the main structure of the sentence is una pars initium capit, and it initium capit a flumine Rodano, right? So that ends one syntactical chunk. And then you have una pars is still your subject. It continetur, note that this is passive, so continetur. And then here, these are the things by which it is continetur. So you have garumna flumine, oceano, and finibus belgarum. Note that all these three elements right here are in the ablative, and then the belgarum here is in the genitive, describing a little bit more about the finibus. Whose finibus? Finibus belgarum. Right? So continetur, by these things. Note a syndeton here. There are no conjunctions. Right? And then attingit etiam flumen renum obsequanis et helvetiis. Okay? And finally, vergit ad septentriones. The toughest part of this is Caesar crams a lot into the sentence with very minimal conjunction. And it's not exactly these are subordinate ideas, but I've drawn them out that way to make it a little bit clearer that the structure of the sentence is mainly una pars initium capit, and then it's continetur, tingit etiam, and then vergit. Right? And then these are all the incidentals. Okay. So the next part here, you'll see that the Belgae, and I think I did, good, I did one for this too. So the Belgae oriuntur, this is going to be the main structure of your sentence. If you look right here, you have Belgae ab extremis, blah, 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 blah. So Belgae oriuntur, ab extremis Galliae finibus. Okay, note that extremis there is going to go with finibus. and then Galliae, genitive singular of Gallia. So the Belgae oriuntur, blah, 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 blah. Pertinent, again, notice that there are no conjunctions between these verbal ideas. So the Belgae oriuntur, they pertinent ad inferiorem partem, fluminis reni, and then spectant in septentrionem et orientem solem. Okay, so just keep in mind that the Belgae here are your subject with all three of these verbs, oriuntur, pertinent, and spectant. Okay. Note also that spectant here, where we would typically say that they look at here, it's an isolated verbal idea with no expressed direct object. So spectant, they simply look in septentrionem, look toward the north, and the orientem solem, the east. Okay. And then finally, your clause beginning with Aquitania, blah, blah, blah. You've got Aquitania as your subject. And the main structure of this sentence is Aquitania pertinet. Right? If you look back here, Aquitania pertinet. Right? So Aquitania pertinet, agarumna flumine, ad Pyrenaeos montes, and then you have to supply ad here for eam partem oceani. So ad Pyrenaeos montes et ad eam partem oceani. And then the relative clause, qua est ad Hispaniam. Note that this relative clause modifies partem, right? It's going to give you more information about that part. Okay, so ad eam partem, qua est ad Hispaniam. Note the use of est with ad here to indicate that it's just in general oriented toward Spain. Okay, so Aquitania pertinet, agarum neflumine, blah, 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 blah. And then spectat here, again, notice no conjunction is added, but it's spectat, just as you'll see that spectant was used here for the Belgae, right? So it's spectat, it looks out inter occasum solis et septentriones. I should have actually made the septentriones roughly equivalent grammatically to the occasum, but I didn't do that. That's not going to orient properly here. Anyway, it should be fairly clear. Inter occasum et septentriones, and then the occasum is the occasum solis.